You know, no matter how successful you become, your past is always kind of riding shotgun. You can build a whole new life, a brand new identity, but the person you used to be, that's the foundation for who you are today. So let's dive into a story that just perfectly captures this idea.
Okay, just picture this for a second. You're in a taxi on your way to a fancy Park Avenue party. You've made it. You're successful. You're polished, living the exact life you designed for yourself. And then, you look out the window and see your mother, homeless, picking through the trash. This single, jarring moment is exactly where our story begins.
And that's really the core question, isn't it? It's all about identity and shame and love and all those complicated ties that bind us to our families. It really forces you to ask, what do you owe your past? And what do you owe yourself? So let's really dig into that moment, that incredible, stark contrast between a woman in a taxi and her mother on the street. I mean, it is a collision of two completely different worlds. How does a story like this even happen? Well, to understand that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, to a childhood built on a philosophy so radical it was both a superpower and, honestly, a curse. You see, the Walls family didn't just ignore the rules, they were living in a completely different reality. Their parents genuinely believed that all the struggle, all the chaos, that it was actually a gift. So, meet Rex and Rosemary Walls. He was this brilliant, genius-level inventor, and she was a passionate artist. And together they had this one core belief, that kids shouldn't be held back by society. They taught their children everything from geology to literature, but their biggest lesson was that struggle builds character, and fitting in is just a cage.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Because you're looking at this profound paradox. On one hand, you have these incredible gifts. These kids were fearless. I mean, we're talking about cooking hot dogs over an open flame at 3 years old. They learned to be radically self-sufficient. But on the other hand, the costs were absolutely devastating. Constant hunger, no stable home, and a level of neglect so deep that vagrants would sometimes just wander in and sleep in their house.
This was their mother's mantra. To her, worrying about what the neighbors thought was just a waste of time. And this philosophy, it was their shield against shame, right? But it also locked them away in a world of their own making, often at the expense of their kids' most basic needs. But in the middle of all this chaos, there was this one shining, beautiful promise that kind of held the family together. It became a metaphor for everything they hoped they could be. And this wasn't just some house. The glass castle was this incredible dream made out of blueprints and pure imagination. Their father, Rex, would unroll the plans and describe every single detail of this amazing, solar-powered mansion he was going to build. It stood for hope, for brilliance, and for a future without any hardship.
But, and this is the crucial part, the blueprints never turned into a building. The father's genius was just constantly derailed by his alcoholism. So instead of a beautiful glass castle, the family often had to literally step over shattered glass from one of his drunken rampages. The dream was always just out of reach.
So, when the promise that their parents would rescue them finally faded away, the Walls children did something pretty remarkable. They decided to rescue themselves. And their plan really shows you just how resourceful they were. This wasn't some desperate last-minute flight. It was a calculated, almost entrepreneurial plan. The kids made a pact. They pooled every single cent they could earn from odd jobs, hiding it all in a piggy bank. And one by one, as soon as they had enough saved up, they bought a bus ticket to New York City to build a completely new life.
It's so important to get this part right. This wasn't about hate or rejecting their family. It was an act of survival, and it was an act of ambition. They had learned that radical self-sufficiency from their parents, and now they were using that exact skill to build a stable foundation their parents never could.
So what can we, as professionals, as entrepreneurs, what can we actually take away from this incredible story of survival and really reinvention?
Now, this is a really challenging idea. It's not about blaming people for their situation. It's a much deeper look at choice. You see, her parents chose their version of freedom over stability. They chose art over food and idealism over comfort. And it kind of forces us to look at our own lives and ask, what are the priorities we're actively choosing, for better or for worse?
All right, so let's break down the key takeaways for us. First, your past forges your competitive advantage. The chaos the Walls children survived made them fearless and incredibly resourceful in the boardrooms of New York. Second, real self-sufficiency means becoming your own safety net. You learn to rely on your own skills to create value and solve problems. Third, forgiveness and accountability can exist at the same time. You can understand why someone made certain choices without excusing the consequences. And finally, and this is the big one, don't hide your story. Embrace it. It's the source of your greatest power and your unique perspective.
So this is the final thought I really want to leave you with. Take a look back at the challenges you've overcome in your own life, in your career. Were they just obstacles, or were they the very things that forged the resilience, the grit, and the wisdom that you rely on every single day? You know, just like the Walls children engineered their own escape to build a better future, you can engineer the next stage of your business. If you're ready to build your own foundation for growth and find more clients, you can book a free discovery call with CT Marketing. The link is right below.